having a little reminiscing discussion, and we reached the halfway point in college. It's gone by pretty quickly. And there was something that we noticed in our discussion about Indians going to college.
Right. There's definitely a distinct college experience for Indian American kids.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things we could talk about here. I mean, I think for one, Indians are more sheltered living at home than are the average American. So when they go to college, it just kind of blows up in their face. Also, our time is a lot more structured when we're at home. We're going to piano lessons or Bharatanatyam or whatever it is you're doing, and then your time is structured by your parents. You go to college, you have all this free time. But there's one thing I really wanted to address that kind of gets swept under the rug, and that's sort of friends and Indians and how you interact with the Indian subgroups in colleges and how that kind of works. And I think high school has a big influence on how you interact with Indians in college. Would you say so?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I went to a high school where there were only 2-3 Indian kids in the whole school, so I was forced to sort of step out of my comfort zone. And, you know, I was in a situation where I was the only bird of my color. So when I came to college, I was actually, it was a different situation because I knew I was going to college at Penn where there were a lot of Indian kids. So I was sort of wondering before I entered school, am I going to gravitate towards these Indian kids that I never had the chance to go to high school with, or will I just continue to have, you know, that same mix of friends that I had in high school? And
how did it work out?
I just ended up meeting the kids from my pre-orientation group, from my dorms, the kids that I really connected with. And
that weren't necessarily Indian.
That I first met. That weren't necessarily Indian. You know,
okay.
Some of them were. I'm not making friends with Indian kids.
Right.
But I didn't make friends with Indian kids just because they're Indian.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak personally, and I know people that have done this too, is obviously I make the friends I make based on, you know, their personality and their characteristics. But I can think of a couple specific instances where I've met a kid who was Indian, and I was like, oh, the kid's kind of cool, and then later in my mind I'm like, I'm going to make a special effort to meet that kid because he's Indian.
Okay.
Or she's Indian. And I feel closer to them, and that's why I want to reach out to them. And, you know, I feel like I'm like them. I'm with them. So in that vein, we're both in fraternities.
Right.
And I know there's plenty of social stigmas about fraternities and what they're like, but throwing all that aside, it's basically just a group of people that live together and are good friends. If there was an Indian fraternity at Penn, all Indian kids, they were cool kids, would you really seek to join that Indian fraternity?
No way. I think college is like the perfect time for you to step out of your comfort zone, to do something different. College is a melting pot. Life is a whole melting pot for you to meet and hang out with different people. I mean, I just don't really see myself benefiting from, you know, being in a fraternity with a bunch of other Indian kids. I just wouldn't be excited about it.
Okay.
Would you do it?
I would.
What could you see?
I could definitely see benefits. The thing is, we had these stigmas about hanging out with Indians or what that means socially for us. But I would join a fraternity of Indians because the truth is they're going to push me academically. They're going to make the right lifestyle choices that I want to make. And I feel like when you're with people that make you better, maybe not as a character, but, you know, academically, the choices you make, socially, different things like that, it's worth it. So maybe we'll both switch sides and kind of see where we go with Indians in the future in college.
Yeah. Moving on to a developing story out of Austin, Texas. The state legislators are rewriting some history books, giving more of a conservative spin on controversial topics.
See, now you made it sound all right the way it is there, but give them the real story and tell them what it is.
The real story is, okay, some tangible examples. They want to replace the word slave trade with Atlantic triangular trade. Instead of calling it a democracy, they want to call America a constitutional republic. They just want to sort of reword the language, and they're even giving a dampening of the significance of the civil rights movement to give what I think is definitely a more conservative and definitely a Southern bias towards this history.
All right, definitely. So we know that Texas is the South. It's the most south of the South. It's the Lone Star State. The governor's made jokes about recession. So keep that in mind, I guess, when our viewers especially, when we have this discussion. There's something I want to say about history books and how social curriculums are written. We all put our own spin on them. I know how we like to think that, oh, America, you know, we present an unbiased view, separation church and state, etc. I don't know if that's that true. Look at how our history books portray the Nixon scandal, the Vietnam War, the Clinton scandal, Desert Storm. Like, these kinds of things aren't really talked about that much in our history books, and we try to pretend like we're an objective third party when we're writing these books or when we're reading these books. Are we really?
Yeah, that's completely true. It's called his story, you know? So there's definitely someone telling the story, giving their own spin. But I think in terms of this Texas history, it's more than rewriting the language. This is cognitive, like